शनिवार शाम शंकर लॉज दिल्ली की वीकली मीटिंग में हार्दिक स्वागत है। आज हमारे बीच डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता जो कि राष्ट्रीय प्रवक्ता हैं और उन्होंने इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक एस्ट्रल प्लेन एंड एस्ट्रल बॉडी के विषय में पहले ही 5 टॉक्स ले लिए हैं। अब उसके कंटिन्यूएशन में वो आगे छठा टॉक लेंगे आज। जैसा कि आप लोग जानते ही हैं, डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता शंकर लॉज न्यू दिल्ली के वर्तमान में सेक्रेटरी हैं। उन्होंने सन 1989 में थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी की सदस्यता ली थी तथा 2005 में वे सोसाइटी के लाइफ मेंबर बने थे। डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता कई बार दिल्ली फेडरेशन के प्रेसिडेंट भी रह चुके हैं और शंकर लॉज के भी। उन्होंने दिल्ली में बहुत से स्टडी कैंप्स में पार्टिसिपेट किया है तथा स्वयं भी स्टडी कैंप लिए हैं। वह प्रोफेशनली एक डॉक्टर हैं तथा ईएसआई हॉस्पिटल न्यू दिल्ली में चेस्ट स्पेशलिस्ट के पद पर कार्यरत हैं। अब अधिक समय न लेते हुए मैं डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता जी को आग्रह करूंगा कि वे आज के विषय भूगोलोक एवं भूगोलोकीय शरीर के छठे पार्ट के बारे में हमारे साथ फर्दर अपने थॉट्स शेयर करें। डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता।
नमस्कार, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। थैंक यू वेरी मच, माधव जी। So we'll continue with our topic, the astral plane. It is based on the book The Astral Plane by C.W. Leggett. We have covered the whole book, only the last portion is left. And the last portion is dealing with the entities which are present, non-human entities, the artificial elementals that we talk. We're talking about artificial entities in which we have elementals made unconsciously, elementals made consciously, and then the artificial elementals. So I'll just present and start with that. So we are here. The artificial entities present on the astral plane are of three categories. We had started with elementals formed unconsciously, and we'll continue with that with a little revision of what we did last time. This is the largest class of astral entities and much more than the others, most important to man, because we are the ones which are creating it and creating these entities continuously. When this book was written, the word elemental was used, but later on they started using the word thought form. The reason being that elemental word can be misunderstood or could have many meanings. Therefore, when they standardize their meaning, Dr. Annie Besant and Bishop Leadbeater, when they standardized the, the terminologies to be used in the philosophical literature, it was better to use the word thought form than elemental because it was related mainly with the lower mental world along with the astral world. Because in human beings, usually the astral, that is our desires, they go side by side with our thinking, and most of our thinking is selfish. That is why the form or the so-called elemental that is formed is formed or is created in both the astral as well as in the lower mental worlds. Now, last time when we did this, we found that as soon as a human being has a desire or a thought, because both go together, supposing I have a desire to get something from the market. So this desire has two aspects. Although I'm calling it a desire, but it has two aspects in it. One, I know exactly what I want. and I know exactly how to get it. Or even if I don't know how to get it, I know where to get it. So this knowledge part is the uh, the creation or the activity of in the lower mental world, and the desiring part that I want is happening at the desire level or the astral level. Therefore, when a when the so-called elemental, as they said, elemental will be formed, it will be a combined form of both the desire part, which is emanating or created from my astral body, and also the part which will give it direction, or the knowledge part, that is the concrete mental part, that is from the lower mental body. So I think we already have covered this, but let us just again see this, that whenever I will have a desire, what is going to happen? Two things are going to happen. Or as C.W. Leadbeater writes, there are two effects of desire or thought. One is that there will be a radiation of vibration in the astral and the lower mental region, or the worlds, or lokas, or the planes. The center of that radiation, from which the radiation will occur, is the person who is desiring or thinking. So these are like, when I speak, there will be vibration from my body to the surrounding atmosphere, to the people, to the space all around me. In the same way, whenever I will have a desire or a thought, then the same thing will happen, but in the astral and lower mental worlds. Now, to the extent to which this radiation will go and how strong or how loud it will depend upon how intensely, how clearly I have made that thought or I have desired. As it as I desire or think, the thought or desire, this radiation, will pass from my body, astral and mental body, into the surrounding astral and mental plane, and will impact other people's astral and lower mental bodies. That vibration will affect their bodies in three ways. Number one, either it will reproduce the same kind of vibration that I was having. That is, if I were having a devotional thought towards Sri Krishna, then maybe another person who is also a follower of Sri Krishna may get the same kind of desire or devotional thought about Sri Krishna. If another person is not a devout person to Sri Krishna, but is a devout person but to some other god or faith or deity, then that person's devotion will be aroused towards that deity. And the third is, if the person is not devout at all, does not have any devotional aspect, any devotional matter in his astral body, then that person will just feel elated, because devotional thought and the devotional vibration in itself is elevating. So he will feel elevated or good and feel very nice for no reason at all. If he is sensitive, that person will feel very good, will feel just like when we pass by some places, we feel very good. In that same way, he will feel very good. Now, supposing the people, the person on whom this vibration strikes is engaged in some work, then that person will not be able to feel anything. The vibration will just pass after impacting his astral and mental body, it will just pass away, and he will not have any impact of this vibration at all. Just like when we are reading or are engrossed in our, let's say, mobile phones or some other activity, and any sort of sound which is coming from nearby, we just don't listen to it. It just passes us by. We are not aware of it. Although our ears have heard it, the brain has recorded it, yet we have not perceived it. Same thing will happen. So this is the first result or the first effect of any sort of desire or thinking. The second will be the production of thought form or elementals. This form is made in the astral world, created in the astral world and the lower mental world, and these are made together. So instead of saying astral and mental world again and again, I'll just say the thought form is made. So this form is created from my own astral and mental bodies, and this form remains, and it has three effects or three classes. The effects will, we had actually done the classes, we'll go on to the effects a little later. Let's just revise the classes. The three classes of thought forms that will be formed will be, by three classes it means that depending on the desire or the thinking, three types of thought forms will be made. Number one, in which the thinking is happening when I am thinking about myself in some place. In some place, I am intensely thinking myself to be there, then my form of my body will be made in the astral and mental worlds, and this will actually go to that place in the physical world and be there. So if I am thinking of a temple in, let's say, in some other city, let's say I am in Delhi and I'm thinking of a temple in Bangalore, then let's say Shirdi Sai Baba temple, then a form of mind will be made in that temple itself. If some psychic person, somebody who can see the astral plane or is sensitive enough to see, then that person may see this form and think that there is a person in the astral plane having that same form. Because he is untrained, he will not be able to make out that this is just a thought form. A trained person who is trained into differentiating between an actual astral body, actual lower mental body, actual body of a living person who is having physical body, a person who is not having a physical body, and a thought form or some other entity on the astral plane masquerading, disguising itself by taking up that form. All these are the possibilities that trained person will be able to make out and distinguish easily because of his training. This is why training is important, and C.W. Leadbeater writes about how this training was given to him in his book How Theosophy Came to Me. Those who are interested can read it. Without this training, the person will be led astray. That is why astral plane and the lower mental plane, they are considered to be areas where it is easy to be deluded, to be made fool of, where one can get misguided, and unless a qualified teacher initiates the student and trains the student, takes responsibility of the student, then only should one try to open one's uh, abilities or faculties or try to become clairvoyant and enter into these planes consciously. Otherwise, it is better not to develop any so-called siddhis or psychic abilities. So C.W. Leadbeater, he was directly invited by his master, and his master was one of those masters who inspired the Theosophical Society. And he went on with that meditation, and he was guided, he was taught. All that is given. He has given that account in that book. Also, in some editions of the book Astral Plane, that account has been given. One can read it. It's very fascinating how it has been given. So, this is the first class of thought form, first type of thought form in which the person who thinks about himself being in some other place, then that person finds that his thought form has traveled to that place and is present there. Now, the second type of thought form is when one is not thinking about oneself in some other place, but rather thinking about some object or someone else, then what happens is that within his astral and mental body, that image is made and of that particular object, and after that image of that object is made, it is thrown out, just like it is created out of one's own astral and mental bodies, and it comes out of the bodies and lies in front of the astral and mental bodies. So this is the second type of thought form. So supposing I think of a pen and I can visualize that pen, or even if I can't, if I think of a particular pen which I saw somewhere else, then in my mental body, in the astral body, because I want to have that pen, the same kind of pen, the image of that will be formed, and from the central part of my lower mental body, the image of that will pop out in the as a separate object from my astral body and will be formed in front of astral and lower mental bodies and will be formed out of it and will lie in front of my astral and lower mental bodies. This is the second type of thought form. In this way, we can see we are actually creators. We are continuously creating thought forms. We are continuously creating elementals, as it is said in the astral plane. Instead of the word thought form, you can use this word elemental. This is how he has used it. We are continuously producing these elementals unconsciously. That is why we have this section of artificial entities of the elementals formed unconsciously, because we are having thousands and thousands of thoughts on a daily basis. An average human being is thinking around about 50 to 60,000 thoughts daily. So these many creations he is making, these many kind of thought forms are being created. Now, these forms, although they are created, how long they will last, what is the lifespan, it depends upon how strong, with what intensity were they made, number one, and number two, are they renewed again and again or not. So, supposing I make a form in the astral and mental plane, and that form, let's suppose I'm thinking of a football, and the moment I think of a football is formed in the astral mental plane. I like this football, I find it very beautiful, I made it, it comes out of me, and as soon as it comes out of me, it is created externally to my bodies on the astral and the mental plane, and it lies there. Now, the moment it has been created and gets separated from my astral and mental bodies, it becomes a creation, an elemental, a semi intelligent entity, an artificial entity in the astral plane, but it has a definite life. It has a definite, before that, after that, because the energy that I gave to make it is limited, it is a finite energy. Once that energy is dissipated, it goes away, then the form will dissolve. On the other hand, if I keep on thinking regularly about this object, then I will keep on giving it life, and this form will persist near me, near my astral and mental bodies. In this way, I will keep this form with me even without my knowledge that it is there, and it will keep on cropping up again and again, because these forms like to, we'll come to that, these forms like to, they are semi intelligent, they like to continue their life. So they will do certain things so that they will induce me to keep on thinking about them, desiring them, so that they can prolong their life. We'll come to that a little bit more. We can say this. The third type of thought form is the generic thought form, which is naturally made whenever anyone desires or thinks related to a particular type of desire or a thought. So supposing there is a devotional thought, then a particular type of form is made by nature itself, which will have blue color. It will have a definite kind of shape depending on what kind of devotion I had, how strong a devotion I had, whether it was a specific devotion towards a specific deity, whether it was having some selfishness in it or not. So many factors go in, and a definite thought form which nature will make, irrespective of who is making it, will be made. And this is the thought form which has been drawn and given in the book Thought Forms. We can see this. Anyone in the top picture we can see here, where it is definite affection is written. Anyone who has definite affection, meaning affection towards a particular person, whosoever it may be. So if a mother has affectionate thought towards a child, a friend towards a friend, a person towards a political figure, anyone having any affection towards a person, but definitely having towards a person, the person is in mind of that person who's having that affection, then this form will be made. It is a generic, a non-specific form. So a person where this 10 is written, let's suppose there is a person, we can call him A, and there is a person on the right side here, we can call him B. When A has definite meaning, has an affectionate thought for B, then this form will go from A to B. This A could be you, it could be me, it could be anyone. It does not matter. The thing is that this form will be created irrespective of who is the person who is creating it, irrespective of who is the person who is receiving it. So this is how in nature, when there is a when there is an emotion, when there is a thought, and usually because they are combined in human beings, we uh, we usually have combined thinking and desiring together. So a combined thought is made, thought form is made, and this will be a generic thought form. If there is a thought form, here we can see when a person is feeling affectionate but not really towards someone, he's just having a nice time, but he has a lot of selfishness, and this kind of thought is this form will be made. Similarly, we had seen last time these different types of. There are many others. Then there are many helpful thoughts also, depending on what kind of help, what kind of thought is being given, the direction we can see towards whom it is going, where it is radiation. So all those things are there. One can go and read the book Thought Forms. Now we have revised more or less what we had done last time. Now we'll go to this section of the effects. So what we have seen till now is that whenever there is a desire or a thought, two things are going to happen. One, there will be a vibration, just like a ripple in a pond. When you throw a stone, a vibration will happen. It will radiate to the whole of that plane, all around that person, and will affect other people as well. Number two, a definite form will be made. That form will either go of, if it is himself, it is about himself, it will go to a particular place. If it is about some other person or an object, it will be created outside that person, will remain or go towards that person to whom this form is made for. And third, a generic type of thought form will be made. Now, once the thought forms are made, then what will happen? We've already talked about when there is a radiation or vibration of that thought or desire, then that vibration goes and impacts the people around us. But what about the thought forms? Once the thought forms are made, then what happens with the thought forms? How the thought forms make their own impact on the people around us and also on us? Because these thought forms, once they are made, they get separated from us. They are now creatures, entities separate from us, and they are not under our control. So once I create a child, unconsciously that child is no longer under my control. So it will have its own way of movement, its own um, some features about which we are going to talk about now. So in the first case, if the man's thought is about himself, as usually most of us are prone to thinking or desiring about ourselves, for ourselves. Then what will happen? The forms which are created, just like I said, I like to have a pen which I saw in the market today or with somebody else. Then that form of that pen, that object will be made in front of me, in front of my astral mental bodies, and it will remain with me because it is the form which I want. It is an object which I want, and the object will appear in front of me, get separated. That object, that form will get, thought form will be there. It will get separated. It will remain with me, and this is my creation. It will not go anywhere. So I, in the course of my day, keep on thinking and desiring so many things. I want this. I don't like this. I would like to have this. How do I get this? What should I do that I don't lose this? All those things which I am desiring throughout the day, all those forms are made, they are related to me, so they remain with me. They don't go anywhere else. And they surround me. Just because we can't see these thought forms does not mean that they are not there. C.W. Leadbeater, he writes, we travel through space, meaning we are going on with our life enclosed within a cage of his own building, surrounded by a mass of the forms created by his habitual thoughts. So, what will happen if I am surrounded by, let's say, tens and thousands of such forms? Then I am actually having a film or a shell of these forms, and whenever something else from outside comes to me, then it has to travel through these forms and it will get affected by striking against these forms and coming to my astral mental bodies. So it's like I'm wearing some eyeglasses. The color of the eyeglasses will modify the color of the various of all the objects which I can see through my eyes, because the light which is reflected from an object will travel through the eyeglass and come and strike my eye. By the time it comes through the glass, if it is blue colored or black colored, the color of that object will get modified. So this is how our prejudices, our superstitions, our ways of thinking, our subjective element, it affects when we see something, when we hear something, our perception, our understanding of a particular situation, of a particular, let's say, view of somebody is different from someone else because he has his own cloud, his own shell, his own surrounding of different forms. I have my own. So this is how we are affected because of our own thought forms which we have created. And this he has called as habitual thoughts. This is the first impact, the first effect. Secondly, what will happen? Now these forms which I have created and are hovering or lying near me, they will start dissipating. The energy within them will start to go. They will start dying because the energy will wane off. It will get expended. So these semi-intelligent agencies or these thought forms or elementals, they will instinctively feel that they are going to die. And just like any entity in the world, everybody wants to survive. So what they will do, they will somehow again influence me to think about them more, to give them more energy. So I will be in a way pulled to think about them. Or my mind will go towards the same thought which I had already thought earlier. it will somehow come again that I will be thinking about the same thing, the same pen, which I had thought, let's say, 6 hours back. After thinking, I got immersed in my activity, some other work. But then, as soon as I was just again relaxing and my mind was not occupied with something, suddenly again I will be reminded of that pen which I had thought some time back. This is how all these he writes that they constantly tend to provoke a repetition of the idea which they represent, and they strengthen already in existence, give it a fresh lease of life. In this way, we are constantly renewing or giving energy to these forms, and they remain there even, he says, for years. And this is important. Why? Because the more I give energy to such a form, the more it will have an impact on me. It is a cycle. I have created a form. Let's suppose I have created a liking for something. I want something. I have now did not think too much about it and left it. After some time, that thing again strikes me, calls my attention. I again think about it, and again I say, oh no, no, I must have that particular pen. Then again I get immersed in my daily life. Then again I start to have that thought. Soon I will find that I will get more and more interested in having that pen and will form a desire strong enough to do something about it. Now, this is a concrete example of getting something. But there are many other types of thoughts in which you don't go and get something. They could be just prejudices, certain opinions. Those opinions and prejudices, superstitions, they get strengthened day by day. And they affect our way of life, our character, our way of thinking, our way of feeling. So here he writes in the end that they will gain more and more strength and influence over him, and easily it will easily be seen that if the desire be evil, the effect upon his moral nature may be of a disastrous character. On the other hand, if I have an affirmation, now what C.W. Leadbeater has not written here, but we can extrapolate and see how affirmations or good thoughts can also help us. Although he's written in a different way, but we can just ourselves interpret it that supposing I were to constantly affirm morning and evening that Aham Brahmasmi, I am that self, I am the monad, or I can say I am healthy. Also, in certain, let's say, certain other affirmations are there which have been given to ordinary people with a lot of evidence that they work. One of these was of a person who spent time in the German prison camp, and he survived that with this just thought, which he kept on in his mind, that day by day, in each and every way, I am getting better and better. And people all around him, they started dying because the Germans did not give them good food. There was disease. There were so many things happening there. This was in Second World War. So he came out and told about affirmations. We have many such affirmations. I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. So many of these affirmations are there. These affirmations, they make these kind of thought forms. We can also have good astral attendants. We can have good astral friends, those who are helping us, those who will have good influence over us. But we have to work towards it. So when we have with good emotional energy, we make a strong, concrete, clear thought form, then it will work upon us as in a positive way by being a companion who will be with us. So if I say in each and every way, Day by day, I am getting better and better and better. I am the self, that self am I, aham brahmasmi, whatever you want to say. In that way, I will make such an attendant and be benefited by it. So, this is something for all of us to think about and work over and make use of it in our own life. The second effect of a thought form is when the thought is not about one's own self but of someone else, then what will happen? I could think something good about somebody else, or I could think negatively about somebody else. In both the cases, the thought form which will be made will rush towards that person and affect that person's and impact the other person's astral and mental bodies. Now, the thought form, unlike the vibration, remember that the vibration, when I made a particular thought, then that vibration passed on into the astral and the mental sphere and impacted a person who was nearby. But since that person was occupied in some work, the vibration impacted him and then went away. And he was really not affected by that vibration because he was occupied with someone. The mind was occupied. But here, what happens is, even if the person is occupied, this thought form, when it will go towards that person, it will remain there. He will be like a visitor who goes to the house of another person and rings the bell and stand there. If the house owner, that is the other person to whom I have sent a good thought, is occupied with something, he will not open the door because he is occupied with something, he has not heard the bell. But this thought form will keep on ringing the bell, and that person, the moment that person is free, that moment this thought form will impact, or that door will open and the thought form will get absorbed in the other person's astral and mental bodies and will make appropriate impact on the other person. If the other person is sensitive enough, he will be able to get some impression that something is happening. But usually we are not so outward oriented. Usually we are not so sensitive that we can appreciate a thought form which is impacting from outside or some thought which is happening from within ourselves. We are unable to usually make out. The other condition which is important in this is that a particular thought form will only impact or get absorbed into the other person's astral or mental body if the other person has similar kind of matter in his astral or mental bodies. If he does not have similar kind of matter in the astral and mental bodies, then this thought form, which I have created and sent towards the other person, will not impact the other person and come back to me and impact me. So, if somebody who is a saintly person who does not have negativity in him, then when I send a negative thought form towards such a saintly person, because the saintly person does not have anything, any matter which can respond to this kind of matter of which this thought form is made, then this thought form will just strike that body of the person and bounce back and come and hit me again and impact me negatively. So this is the way in which the second impact or the second effect of thought forms will happen. The first we saw when the thought form is about ourselves, and the second is when the thought form is about someone else. Then this is what can happen. The practical application of this is, he writes, Bishop Leadbeater, that we can send good, helpful thought forms of promoting the health of the other person, prosperity of the other person, protection, peace, so many things that we can say. In actual life, we may not be able to help in terms of physical objects, or physically we may not be able to help, but at least in the astral and the mental spheres, we can definitely help in this. All these good thought forms, they do impact the other person and the surrounding atmosphere and does make a beneficial impact on all those who are affected by it. Therefore, as he gives the example, when we continuously send good thought forms to a person who is unwell for his speedy recovery, then it does help the other person to recover. The other side of it is, if we can think of it in this way, like in the physical world, if we were to keep things very bright, clean, beautiful all around us, within our house, outside of us, and wherever we go, we spread happiness, we spread beauty, we spread the nicer things of life, then wherever we go, there will be a goodness which goes along with us. On the other hand, if we are negative type of person, we are constantly cribbing, crying, cursing, speaking ill about other people, finding faults with other people, finding faults with the government, finding faults with the whole world, that I am the victim, everybody's against me, so many things, I am totally a negative person, then I am actually spreading negativity all around. It's like I'm throwing dirt all around, not only within my house, but also outside. So this is for me to see what I choose to do. As he writes in the end, what he chooses to surround himself is up to the person himself. So this knowledge helps us to understand this point. Now, we've already talked about that there is a instinctive desire to prolong its life. So here also, the same thing will happen. The person will again feel like sending the same thought again because it has emanated from him. A copy of it remains within the mental body and the astral body of the person who has made this thought form for someone else, and there will be again a tendency for that to be repeated. So that is there, which he is again telling. Now, there is another situation here. We have talked about a person creating a thought form for himself, thinking about himself. Another thought form when he is thinking about someone else, whether it is good or bad, doesn't matter. But he says now that it may happen that this artificial elemental or this thought form may not be able to do what it was supposed to do. He has not given, Bishop Leadbeater has not given how or why it may happen, but he says occasionally it may happen that it may not be able to impact the other person, does not come back, does not get dissipated. It becomes a kind of, as he writes, a wandering demon. Why a demon? A good thought, it doesn't matter, but a negative thought will be a bad thing. It's like we have let loose a criminal in the world. And this demon will be, meaning this negative thought form, will be easily attracted to anyone nearby who has similar kind of thought forms or feelings in his astral body and will get attached to him and pour out or take strength and this way perpetuate itself, meaning it will prolong its own life and induce the other person to produce more of such thought forms or such thoughts or feelings. In this way, it will keep on continuously gaining its own life in the astral and the mental plane and spreading negativity. As far as any medium is concerned, because when this book was written in 1894, there was a fashion at that time of the seance rooms where the mediums used to be there, and there used to be some entity on the other side, the spirit who would call out various things and answer questions of the to the audience and show many phenomena. So here he writes, Bishop Ledbetter, in this form it may manifest through a medium and by masquerading as some well-known friend may sometimes obtain influence over people whom he would not otherwise get hold because the other people would not be affected. But here, once they give, open the door and let the person come in, then they have opened themselves to the influence that this particular artificial entity will have upon them, and that will have again negative impact or negative consequences. That is why Bishop Ledbetter he writes, this will serve to enforce the statement already made as to the importance of maintaining a strict control over our thoughts. And when we have good thoughts, we have practically, he writes, a good angel always along ourselves and our family and friends. In the same way, he writes, many a time a mother's loving thought. Now, mother is not consciously making an elemental. We are talking about elementals made unconsciously. So, a mother is having loving thoughts and prayers, and they make a kind of guardian angel for the child, which will have undoubtedly assistance and protection given to the child. One more thing he mentions here, because the next manual which he had produced along with Dr. Annie Besant was the Divachinic plane. Astral plane is the theosophical manual number 5, and after its this astral plane lecture was given in the London Lodge in 1894, it was published as the Transactions of the London Lodge, and when Dr. Annie Besant read it, because she started the series of theosophical manuals, then she invited Bishop Ledbetter to allow him to give the to grant him that this astral plane should be published as a theosophical manual, which he agreed to, and this was published as theosophical manual number 5. Then together they investigated the Divachini plane on the same in the same way the astral plane was investigated, but because Dr. Annie Besant was quite busy, that investigation, though done was jointly, was written in the book form practically solely by Bishop Ledbetter. So we find that the name of this theosophical manual number 6 comes up as the Divachinic plane written by C. W. Ledbetter, although it has inputs from Dr. Annie Besant as well. Now, what they found was that when the mother died and went into the astral plane and then into the Divachinic plane, then what happened, even in the Divachinic plane, when she was in the Divachinic plane, she was having the children in front of her and she was pouring out her love for the children. That love did make elementals in the astral plane also. And in fact, the astral plane and and become guardian elemental as she has written, as he has written, guardian elemental, and they in fact affected the children and impacted the children. So this is how even at the level of the Divachinic plane, these thought forms can be made. And as Madame Blavatsky remarks, her love will always be felt by the children in the flesh. It will manifest in their dreams and often in various events in providential protections and escapes. For love is a strong shield and is not limited by space or time. Bishop Ledbetter then writes that many times what we call a prayer is nothing but a strong desire in the same way. Supposing I do a prayer to some deity to protect my family and friends, or to give help to my family and friends, to heal someone amongst my family and friends who's having some disease. But actually, what am I doing? I am making this second type of, or second, this impact of the second type of thought form that we talked about, in which this elemental is made and goes and impacts the person in a beneficial manner. This power of an earnest desire, especially if frequently repeated, to create an active elemental which ever passes forcefully in the direction of its own fulfillment, is the scientific explanation of what devout but unphilosophical people describe as answers to prayer. So when somebody does get impacted and gets healed or gets helped, then we say, "Oh, God has listened to me. XYZ God that I prayed to has listened and has helped the other person." But he says it is possible this is the reason why it is happening. There are some other explanations also given elsewhere how that may also happen by some other agencies, but this is one of the ways in which our so-called desires are fulfilled in terms of prayer. Now, the third effect of the thought form is that if the thought form is neither for myself, I'm not thinking about myself, and I am not thinking about anyone else also. So it is neither directed towards myself, neither directed towards somebody else. So what will happen then? Then wherever that thought form is made, it will remain there. It is created. It is created. It is a creation. It will come out of me and it will float around me. But as I will go away from that place physically, it will remain there because it was neither directed towards me, neither directed towards anybody else. So it will remain where it was created and stay there and till the time it will get dissipated when the life energy passes away. That thought energy, that desire energy with which it was created, it passes away. Till that time, it will remain there. In the meantime, supposing I'm on a railway station platform and I make some sort of thought forms that the climate is very good today. That is all. So that thought form is created there and it will remain there. I'm sitting on a bench and thinking like this. Then I go away from there. The thought remains there. Somebody else and comes and sits in the bench. His mind is not occupied with anything else. This thought will enter his mind and he and may direct its attention toward itself. That the man will think about the climate and then be forced to think about the climate and give energy towards it. In this way, the thought may remain there for some more time. So this is the third type of effect of a thought form. Now we go on to the next section, and that is the elementals formed consciously. This is very important because this is how, although we have just talked a little bit about this also, but those who are trained both on the white side, both in the black or the dark schools, both who are trained, those who can see, those who are convinced, those who know and can see the impact, such people can make these elementals or thought forms purposefully, carefully, just like I will create a machine or I will create let's say a machine and in its software. Now we can think in these terms. I will create a machine and put a computer chip in it with specific direction of what needs to be done, and then start and push it away to do its work, and it will go and do its work. So I can make a kind of a thought form very specific to do specific work, give it good energy, and see it having an impact. So occultists of both the white and the dark schools, they frequently use artificial elementals in their work. And C.W. Leadbeater writes, few tasks are beyond the powers of such creatures when scientifically prepared and directed with the knowledge and skill. For one who knows how to do so can maintain a connection with this elemental and guide it, no matter at what distance it may be working, so that it will practically act as though endowed with the full intelligence of its master. In the previous section, when the elementals were made unconsciously, We did create the elementals, but we did not have any control over them. Rather, they were influencing us. If a thought was about me, myself, then the elemental or thought form was created and it was influencing me. And if it was for someone else, then it was going and influencing that person. But at no point I had control over it. Here, he writes the person who scientifically prepares it, meaning just like he puts specific instructions and makes it for a specific purpose, will have a control over it, just like we have control with our remote, and guide it, see to it that it reaches to its destination and does the work that it wants to do. This is why being trained in the occult arts is important, and moral training, moral guidance is also very important. This is the difference between white and the dark. The white people or the people who are on the right side, they will always be beneficial or do these things beneficially for other people, will be doing the right things for the good of all the people. Whereas the people whom we call the dark schools or the dark people, the left hand path, they will do for themselves, and they will not mind killing or damaging or destroying other people, their property, whatever it might be, because they want to attain their own means, their own ends through these means. So this is the only difference. Both those who know these arts, they can do this. Here the important point is I am making the elemental consciously and have control over it. And I know what it can do, how powerful it can be, and where I can use it. So this is number one point in this. Here he writes that if a person knows how to do this, can do it for some other person, to help the other person in a very dramatic manner and help that person over an incurable disease or some other life altering event, he can help, but usually it does not happen. So let's say a person who's an occultist, he knows how to help someone else, he has the power, he will not use it unless karma permits it to be done. So this is just one point he has said. So we should let Peter. Now the practical part of knowing this is that he writes that there are certain black magic artificial elementals which have been created already, especially in the Atlantean race. And there, these entities are in such a way that they have to, again, they have to maintain themselves, these entities. So once these entities have been created and maybe now left to do their work, they may become as village gods, Gram Devtas, or the beneficial devta of some area where they where the tradition that has been started by these people who made these entities was to give them food in terms of sacrifices. So when animals were given as sacrifice, the blood of those animals or in some other way they are given, as he writes here, that they have to be given some offerings which are usually in terms of blood or some other uh, negative things. So then these, once they are given, these entities then in some way or the other help these people to show that we are pleased with you. And he says that in this way they are able to maintain their existence and influence over all these people. So he writes there are parts of India where both these varieties, where the shedding of blood and all that are there, may be found flourishing even at the present day, and in Africa they are probably comparatively numerous. I'm not going into detail, already the time is up. I want to finish this, at least this section. So they may continue to prolong their existence for many years and even centuries, retaining sufficient strength to perform occasional phenomena of the mild type in order to stimulate the faith and zeal of their followers. And one of the examples that C.W. Leadbeater writes is that in one Indian village, the inhabitants have found that for any reason, the local deity is not provided with his or her regular meals, spontaneous fires begin to break out with alarming frequency among the cottages. And then we go to the last section before we close today is that of the human artificials. This section that we are doing is are the artificial entities found on the astral plane. Amongst them, we did the elementals found made unconsciously, then the elementals made consciously, and now the third are the human artificials. These are very few in number, and they are related to one experiment which was done by a lodge, yeah, which was formed in the Atlantean times, many thousands of years back. These were not directly associated with the Great White Brotherhood, but they were highly advanced people, and when they saw that materialism had taken over, especially in the last 400-500 years, when they saw that, they did one experiment to show the people in general that there is life beyond death as well. Everything is not just the physical body, and the death of the physical body alone does not mean that now everything is over. To make this kind of impact, they made use of the spiritualistic, the seances. So what they did, they selected a person who had recently died. They made him fully awake on the astral plane, helped him to remove the rearrangement of his astral body, which we have done earlier, if you remember, is that the astral body gets rearranged. They explained several things to him about the astral plane, made him ready, prepared him, and made him sit at these seances and made him do certain events in these seance rooms so that the people who were the audience who was attending their seance rooms could be convinced about the life after death and the actualities of the astral plane to a great extent. In this, they were quite successful. In fact, they were so successful that C.W. Leadbeater writes the movement increased so much more rapidly than expected that it soon got beyond control of the lodge itself. They prepared so many people and they introduced this kind of system that other people also started doing. When something gets fashionable and popular, there are other people who come in and they join in, and they are imposters. They start doing similar kind of things. As we see, if there is a particular product which becomes popular, then other people will imitate and make the similar kind of things. Sometimes they will just copy it out and nothing else. So this is the way in which it happened, and it grew out of their hands. Now, what they found was that such people whom they had prepared to do this kind and become as spirit guides in the astral plane, who would guide the medium. This spirit guide in the astral plane would have to remain at the sixth and the fifth subplane of the astral plane to impact the person, the medium, on the physical plane. The medium is on the physical plane, alive, a person like us, but the dead person is on the astral plane, the spirit guide. He is trained to use this medium to tell the people who have come to see that seance, to see that show, and is giving information through this medium and showing various phenomena. Now, for this to happen, the spirit guide on the astral plane would have to remain on the sixth and the fifth subplane, which are related to our physical world here, and he would not pass on to the much higher astral subplanes. Now, just like in physical body, we become old. What happens? that the physical body starts to become old as time goes by. And then the body becomes so old that it is unable to maintain life in the body, and some sort of disease will come, or simply the body then just gives away and the life passes away from the body. But on the astral plane, there is no such concept of becoming old. What happens there is something else. On the astral plane, the matter of the astral plane, which is forming the astral body, that gets dissociated slowly and slowly. The grosser matter starts to loosen and gets dissolved away from the astral body of a person, and slowly, all the grosser matter starts to move away or gets dissipated, and a threshold point meaning a point is reached when the astral body itself cannot sustain that person's life and it drops away, or the astral death takes place. Now, this is a gradual, normal, natural process. But in these spirit guides who were trained to remain, they had to exert their will and to remain there on the lower astral subplanes and gather that material grosser matter to maintain this activity. This led to some serious and permanent injury. So, here in the last line, he writes that it was soon found that it was impossible to make use of a spirit guide for any length of time without doing him serious and permanent injury. So, these people from the lodge they realized that it was not possible and it was not right also to keep that spirit guide here for a long period of time, but they knew the work that was being done was very important, and the medium through which it was being done by the spirit guide, the medium also recognized that guide, the various particularities of that guide, and the people were also associated. So they could not lose the personality of that spirit guide. What they did was that they used the dead astral body of that spirit guide. They allowed the spirit guide to wane away and die in the astral body, but they kept the astral body, maintained the dead astral body, which here it is called the shade. Here they say the shade which he left behind was occupied. So they got someone else to make use of this shade or dead astral body to communicate with that medium so that the show could go on the physical plane, and no difference would be noticed, or not much difference would be noticed, and the same impact that they wanted to give could be made. This is what C.W. Ledbetter writes is a human artificial. It's a dead astral body of a human being which was serving as a spirit guide, now is being used by another spirit guide, but being used uh, is being made use of by another person. So it's like I make use of somebody else's dead body. I energize it. I know how to energize it. I energize it and use it to influence a medium on the physical world and to do the various shows and to tell the people the various phenomena and all that. So I'm using this temporary dead body. So this is how he called it as a human artificial. With this, we have come to the end of the last chapter. We will do whenever we do next time. I will just tell that what we have done till now is that we have done the introduction of the astral plane, and we have done till now which are the inhabitants on the astral plane. We have seen the human inhabitants, those who are having physical body, there are four types. Those humans who are not having physical body currently, those whom we call dead, there are 10 types which are present on the astral plane. Then those who are non-human entities on the astral plane, amongst them are something called the elemental essence, then the astral body of animals, then nature spirits, the devas, and the last that we have done today is the elementals, artificial entities, elementals from unconsciously, elementals from consciously, and the human artificials. So with this, I will close, and I thank you all for patient listening. If there are any comments or questions, you most welcome. Mathurji.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद राजीव जी। आपने बहुत ही सुंदर ढंग से और आसान शब्दों में हम लोग को समझाया। ये सारी चीज़ें हम लोग को बहुत डिफ़िकल्ट या बहुत अलग सी एलियंस लगती हैं, मगर ये सत्य हैं, जैसा कि राजीव जी बता रहे हैं। किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन या किसी ने कुछ कहना है तो बताइए प्लीज़।
डॉक्टर साहब आपने बहुत ही अच्छा से समझाया, लेकिन हमें एक थोड़ा कंफ्यूजन है। 3 एस्पेक्ट आपने बताया। एक तो है कि हम अपने बारे में कुछ सोचते हैं, सेल्फिशनेस उसमें है। दूसरा आपने बताया कि वो थॉट फॉर्म होता है तो दूसरे के बारे में हम कुछ सोचते हैं, खराब सोचते हैं, नेगेटिव सोचते हैं। तीसरा जो आपने बताया थोड़ा उसको एक्सप्लेन कर।
देखिए, हम जब विचार करते हैं या इच्छा करते हैं, या तो हम अपने लिए करते हैं या किसी दूसरे के लिए करते हैं। जब हम दूसरे के लिए करते हैं तो उसके दो विभाजन हैं, दो डिविजन हैं। एक, या तो दूसरे के लिए अच्छा सोचते हैं या दूसरे के लिए बुरा सोचते हैं। कई बार न्यूट्रल भी सोचते हैं, कोई ऐसी बात नहीं। मगर अगर हम अच्छा सोचते हैं या बुरा सोचते हैं तो वो थॉट उनके पास जाता है। जब हम अपने बारे में सोचते हैं तो थॉट हमारे पास ही रहता है, जो फॉर्म बनता है। और तीसरा है, जब हम किसी ऐसी चीज या सिचुएशन के बारे में सोचते हैं जो ना मेरे से रिलेटेड है ना किसी और दूसरे व्यक्ति से रिलेटेड, तो वो थॉट जो बनता है वो जहाँ पे बनता है, जिस फिजिकल जगह पे बनता है, वहीं पे टिका रह जाता है, वहीं पे छूट जाता है। वो वहीं पे छूट जाता है और वहीं पे पड़ा रहता है। ये तीसरा टाइप का थॉट है। मेरे ख्याल से आप कुछ क्लियर हुआ दिवाकर जी?
बिल्कुल ठीक है। नहीं, इससे क्या डज इट डू एनी गुड टू अस और टू अदर्स? द थर्ड वन।
थर्ड वन का ऐसा है, अगर हमारा थर्ड थॉट कोई भारी नेगेटिव थॉट ना हो किसी सिचुएशन के बारे में, कि भाई आज तो बहुत गंदा होने वाला है, आज तो खराब ही खराब होगा, अब तो पूरी दुनिया डूब जाएगी। अब मैं किसी दुनिया पे तो नहीं भेज रहा, ये वहीं पे थॉट बना हुआ है। अब कोई और दूसरा व्यक्ति आके उस थॉट को पकड़ लेता है और उसको रीडुप्लीकेट करता है, उसको और एनर्जी देता है, तो ऐसा थॉट चलता रहेगा। इस सेंस में नेगेटिव रख सकता है। कोई भी थॉट जो है ना, उसकी नेगेटिव पॉजिटिव डिपेंड करता है कि हम उसको क्या एनर्जी देते हैं जो हमारे पास आ रहा है। अगर वो नेगेटिव है, अब जैसे जो ट्रेंड लोग होते हैं उनको मालूम होता है किस तरीके से ऐसे थॉट्स को ब्रेक करना। अब हम लोग को तो पता नहीं, हमारे पास तो जो थॉट आता है हम उसको और एनर्जी दे देते हैं। अगर हम देना चाहें तो, हम जब सोचते तो एनर्जी दे ही देते हैं। हमारे लिए प्रैक्टिकल पॉइंट क्या है कि हमारे अंदर जब कोई थॉट अपने आप बने जो कि हम अवेयर हो, हम लोग उसको पहचाने कि वो नेगेटिव है, हमारे हिसाब से नेगेटिव है, तो हम उसका ऑपोजिट एकदम सोचना चालू कर दें और उसको नेगेट करने के लिए, और आगे ऐसा इंटेंशन बनाए कि ऐसी चीज के बारे में हम दोबारा नहीं सोचेंगे, हम अच्छा ही सोचेंगे। इस तरीके से अपने थॉट पे कंट्रोल लाएं। जो किताब है पावर एंड यूज एंड पावर ऑफ थॉट, ABCD लिटरेचर की है, और एनी बेसन की भी एक किताब है थॉट पावर। इसके अंदर इसके बारे में और डिटेल में लिखा हुआ है। तो हम अपने थॉट्स को क्लीन करेंगे, जिसको आयुर्वेद कहते हैं कि प्योरिफिकेशन करेंगे। तो हम अपने थॉट्स को सफाई करेंगे, हम ऐसे ही झाड़ू लगाएंगे अपने आसपास एस्ट्रल और मेंटल वर्ल्ड के अंदर, तो हम ऑटोमेटिकली इन जगत के अंदर, एस्ट्रल और मेंटल जगत के अंदर क्लीन, हम वहाँ पे भी पोल्यूशन जो है वहाँ के जो है हटाएंगे। हम थॉट पोल्यूशन कह लीजिए, हम हटाएंगे।
ठीक है, बहुत अच्छा, बहुत बढ़िया।
नमस्कार
धन्यवाद।
राजीव जी।
धन्यवाद राजीव गुप्ता जी, धन्यवाद दिवाकर जी। हाँ सुषमा जी बताइए।
नमस्कार राजीव।
हाँ
मुझे
बताइए।
समय तो बहुत हो गया है, लेकिन मैं 2 मिनट
नहीं नहीं,
एक जिज्ञासा है मेरी, यदि आप अनुमति दे तो पूछूं?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
हाँ, पहली बात तो आपने बहुत आज क्लियर किया कि हम जो है वो एलिमेंटल ना कह के थॉट फॉर्म कहें तो ज्यादा बेटर होगा। ये बात बहुत क्लियर हुई आज। दूसरी बात जो आपने अफर्मेशन के माध्यम से आपने कहा कि हम गुड एलिमेंटल फोर्स को अट्रैक्ट करते हैं, ठीक है, और वो अफर्मेशन के माध्यम से हम जिस पर्टिकुलर व्यक्ति को फोकस करके जब बोलते हैं, हम अपने प्रॉस्पेरिटी के लिए, पीस के लिए, लव के लिए, हेल्थ के लिए, तो क्या हम, ये प्रश्न मेरे शुरू से मन में उठ रहा था, क्या हम उसके कर्मा को डाइल्यूट नहीं करते, कर्म बंधन को डाइल्यूट नहीं करते, या अपने कर्म बंधन को डाइल्यूट नहीं करते? तो ये थियोसॉफी में 2-3 लेक्चर हैं, बहुत सीनियर मेंबर्स ने भी कहा कि अफर्मेशन से कुछ ऐसा इफेक्ट नहीं होता, लेकिन मुझे ये विश्वास है कि हम यदि कर्म बंधन बनाते हैं तो कर्म बंधन को शिथिल करने का भी अधिकार हम में है। ऐसा जय कृष्ण मूर्ति भी कहते हैं कि हम कर्म बंधन को डाइल्यूट कर सकते हैं अपने पॉजिटिव कर्म से। तो आप इस पर थोड़ा सा प्रकाश डालिए कि क्या ये बड़ा कंट्राडिक्टरी लगता है कि जब हम गुड एलिमेंटल फोर्स को अपनी ओर अट्रैक्ट करते हैं और किसी दूसरे के लिए गुड फोर्स भेजते हैं, तो क्या उसके कर्म को हम शिथिल करते हैं कि नहीं करते? ये प्रश्न है।
बहुत बढ़िया प्रश्न है। इसके अंदर हम ऐसा समझें कि हम कर्म तो करते ही रहे। हम 4 प्रकार से हम कर्म करते हैं। पहला तो हम फिजिकल एक्टिविटी में करते हैं, दूसरा हम बोलने से, स्पीच से करते हैं, तीसरा हम अपने डिजायर से करते हैं, चौथा हम अपने विचार से करते हैं। तो ये चारों लेवल पे हम एक्टिव हैं। अब हम जब कोई कर्म करते हैं, हम अगर कर्म करते हैं अपना आई को लेके, सेल्फ से लेके, अपने पर्सनैलिटी से लेके, तो हम एक कर्म बंधन बनाते हैं। अगर हम कर्म करते हैं जिसके अंदर हमारा आई नहीं होता है, हम सिर्फ दूसरे को सोच के कर रहे हैं, तो हम कोई कर्म बंधन अपने लिए नहीं बनाते। पहला पॉइंट। दूसरा पॉइंट, अगर मैं कर्म कर रहा हूँ, चाहे मैं अपना आई को लेके कर रहा हूँ या विदाउट आई लेके कर रहा हूँ, तो मैं एक फोर्स भेज रहा हूँ दूसरे की तरफ। जैसे कि कोई व्यक्ति मेरे पास आया, उसने या मैं किसी से मिला और उसको मैंने कोई उपाय बताया कि भाई तेरा गला खराब है, ये फलाना फलाना उपाय कर ले, शायद तुझे फायदा हो जाए। अब मैंने उसको कुछ उपाय बताया, मैंने एक कर्म करा, उसको फायदा होगा या नहीं होगा या कितना होगा, ये उसके अपने व्यक्तिगत कर्म पे डिपेंड करता है। अगर तो उसको फायदा होना होगा तो उसको फायदा होगा, अगर उसको फायदा नहीं होना होगा तो उसको फायदा नहीं होगा। मगर ये सोच के कि उसको फायदा होगा कि नहीं होगा, या उसके कर्म में हम इंटरफेयर कर रहे हैं कि नहीं कर रहे हैं, हमारे थियोसॉफिकल लिटरेचर में आता है आपको इसके बारे में नहीं सोचना है। आपको अगर चांस मिलता है, आपको सही लगता है, आपके विवेक के अनुसार कि आपको किसी के लिए कोई कर्म करना है जो उसके लिए फायदेमंद हो, आप करिए। और आप चाहते हो कि आपका कर्म बंधन ना बने किसी के साथ में, तो आप उस सेंटर से मत करिए जो जिसको आप आई कहती हैं। आप अपने गुरु के नाम पे करिए, किसी भगवान के नाम पे करिए, सबके नाम पे करिए, जिसके भी नाम पे आपने करना है। खुद के नाम पे ना करिए, कोई एक्सपेक्टेशन के साथ ना करिए, तो वो आपके साथ का आपका कर्म नहीं बनेगा। इसके अलावा भी कोई और सुषमा जी पॉइंट है या मैंने कुछ छोड़ दिया इसमें?
नहीं नहीं, जो हमको आपने बिल्कुल, जो मेरे मन में जिज्ञासा चल रही थी और प्रश्न उठ रहा था कि हम जो है, हमको यदि अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली है किसी को हेल्प करने की, या हम मेंटली इस तरह की, जैसे मैं 2 किताबें मेरे पास है, योर वर्ड इज योर वैन और द गेम ऑफ लाइफ एंड हाउ टू प्ले इट। ये जो है वो फ्लोरेंस स्कोवेल की किताब है, और मैं इसकी जो प्रेयर है वो हर दिन करती हूँ, मतलब हर दिन करती हूँ। और एक जैसे आई को फोकस करके नहीं करती मैं, एक जैसे जैसे आपने बताया ना कि भाई एक जब कोरोना का पीरियड था तो व्हाइट लाइट मेडिटेशन पूरे वर्ल्ड में भेजने की बात थी। मतलब ये चूंकि हम लोग थियोसॉफी में सीखा है, कुछ जज्ब किया है, लेकिन अभी आपके से प्रश्न मेरे मन में उठा कि कोई कर्म को शिथिल करने की बात है, तो आपने सही कहा कि हमको अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली है, हम उस अपने आई को फोकस ना करके उस पर्टिकुलर व्यक्ति को या उस ऑब्जेक्ट को या ह्यूमैनिटी को फोकस करके वो काम करें, तो हम कर्म बंधन नहीं बनेगा। और प्लस हम जो है वो हमारी ये गुड डीड्स हैं और इसका हम रिवॉर्ड के उससे नहीं कर रहे, लेकिन हम ह्यूमैनिटी के लिए हेल्प कर रहे हैं, और यदि उसको फायदा होना होगा तो वो होगा, लेकिन हम क्यों अपॉर्चुनिटी खोएं। ये बात बहुत आपने बहुत अच्छी, क्योंकि कभी कभी जहन में प्रश्न उठता है, अप्रोप्रिएट आंसर नहीं मिल पाता, तो आपने बहुत अच्छे से उसको समझाया, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। तो मैं हर दिन 4-5 प्रेयर्स करती हूँ, मतलब जैसे डेडिकेशन के साथ, एक जैसे कहना एक रिचुअल है। लेकिन कई थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी के मेंबर्स कहते हैं कि इट डज नॉट हेल्प एनी मोर। तो फिर वही प्रश्न उठा कि मैं जिज्ञासा शांत करूं, क्योंकि आपने इतने इन
नहीं, आप
डेप्थ
करते
स्टडी
रहिए, आप करते रहिए, स्कोर बढ़ाइए,
जो मैं
स्कोर
तो
बढ़ाइए।
ये तो मेरे हस्बैंड से मुझे वो मिली है, तो मैं तो करती रहती हूँ उसको। ओके, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
नमस्कार, थैंक यू, धन्यवाद सुषमा जी। आप जो प्रश्न उठा रही हैं, ये प्रश्न तो बराबर आपने खुद ही आंसर दे दिया। राजीव जी ने तो बहुत अच्छे से समझा ही दिया हम लोग को, मगर पिताजी डॉक्टर चित्री जिनके साथ हम लोग काम करते थे, वो तो बार बार इसको बहुत अच्छे से समझाते थे सुषमा जी, जो आप बात कह रही हैं। तो एनीवे, अभी हम लोग तो अपनी तरफ से करते जाएं और भूलते जाएं, मगर ये तेरा पंथी कुछ जैन पंथ में मैंने सुना है कि शायद उनके यहाँ इसकी मनाही है। बाकी मैंने कहीं नहीं सुना ऐसा कि कुछ इसके बारे में है। अगर कोई कुछ बताता है तो बताए। तेरा पंथी एक रिलीजन उनके यहाँ होता है, उसमें ऐसा कहते हैं कि दूसरे के कर्म के बारे में हम इंटरफियर नहीं कर सकते, ना करना चाहिए। दिस इज व्हाट दे से, दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव हर्ड। कोई अगर और इसके बारे में कुछ बता सकता है तो बताए प्लीज।
धर्म के संबंध में जो पढ़ा है,
हाँ।
उन्होंने कहा कि जैसे हमारी जो आत्मा है वो तो चेतन है, एनलाइटेंड है ही। तो कभी कभी हम कहते हैं ना कि आत्मा में जो है वो धूमिल प्रकाश, जैसे मान लीजिए एक लैंप जल रहा है और उस लैंप में हमने एक ग्लास का वो ढक्कन लगा दिया। अब जब वो लैंप जलेगा तो उसका धुआं जो है वो चारों ओर जो है वो फैलेगा और उसकी आत्मा की रोशनी जो है वो बाहर नहीं जाएगी। तो ये कहा गया है जैन धर्म में, जो मैंने पढ़ा है, कि कर्मों का आश्रय ना हो, उसका संवर करें और तब वो निर्जरा करें। तो ये जब हम ये काम करेंगे तो अपने आप जो हमारी आत्मा तो स्वयं प्रकाशित है ही। जैसे कभी कभी हम कहते हैं कि उसकी आत्मा तो बड़ी जो है मलिन है। आत्मा मलिन नहीं है, हमारे विचारों ने उसको मलिन किया है। तो ये 3 शब्द आते हैं, आश्रम, संवर और निर्जरा। तो हम जो है कर्मों का प्रवाह को रोके, न आने दे, उसको रोके और उसको शिथिल करें। ये चीज मैंने पढ़ी है। और लेकिन ये जो आपने जो ये बात कही है, ये मेन जो जैन दर्शन है उसमें ये बात नहीं आती है।
बिल्कुल ठीक है, मेन नहीं। तेरा पंथी एक अलग, हमको किसी कहीं पे मैंने पढ़ा था या सुना, तो उसके बारे में बहुत ज्यादा मेरे को नेट पे मिल नहीं पाया। एनीवे, कोई नहीं, मैंने कहा किसी को कोई नॉलेज है तो इस
आपने
बारे
कहा
में।
तेरा पंथी तो देख के क्योंकि बताएंगे आपको कभी, जब अच्छा वो आपने बता दिया।
चलिए, मैंने कहीं पढ़ा था तो मेरे माइंड में आया तो मैंने शेयर किया। मैंने कहा और किसी को कुछ है। धन्यवाद सुषमा जी, आप आ जाती हैं, शोभा बढ़ा देती हैं। थैंक यू ऑल पार्टिसिपेंट्स। और किसी ने कुछ बोलना है? शुक्ला जी, आप कुछ कह रहे थे शायद। शुक्ला जी कुछ कह रहे थे ना राजीव?
पता नहीं, वो थे अब
चले गए
चले
शुक्ला
गए,
जी?
चले गए शायद।
अभी अगर और किसी का कुछ प्रश्न या किसी का कोई एडिशन नहीं करना तो हम लोग आगे बढ़ते हैं। कि नेक्स्ट टॉक हमारा 9 तारीख को होगा। विभा सक्सेना जी लेंगी, नेशनल लेक्चरर, और टॉपिक होगा एवोल्यूशन ऑफ लाइफ। यही टाइम होगा 5:30 से 6:30। तो अभी हम लोग क्लोज करते हैं, अगर और कुछ नहीं है तो प्रेयर के बाद। ओम सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, न कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्।